Dude, this does pinch harmonics like you wouldn't believe. Well, what is up, everybody? We're back with a plugin review today, and this one's from a brand you may or may not have heard of. This is from Nembrini Audio, and it's the Hughes Kettner Coreblade. And we've all heard of Hughes Kettner, right? I just haven't seen that many plugins based on a Hughes Kettner amp. And so I was kind of stoked when Nembrini reached out to me to demo this plugin for you all. Now, this is a sponsored video because they did send me the plugin free of charge to make this demo, but they did not pay me to make this demo, nor are they seeing this video before I put it out. They didn't give me any expectations or anything like that either. They just wanted me to do my thing, and that's what we're gonna do. And I figured this would be a really good opportunity because, you know, I do a lot of demos of plugins and amps and things of that sort, but not as many from brands that aren't as well known. And now that I'm getting to know Nembrini Audio a bit more, they have a lot going on. They have a ton of plugins on their website, not just amp sims either. They have mixing plugins, they have amp sims, they have bass sims. There's a lot of really cool stuff that they've got going on, and I'm actually really digging some of the unique features of their plugins as well. All that being said, there is an affiliate link down in the description below, so if you decide to pick this up after watching this demo, that helps me out a ton, and it costs you nothing to use that link instead of just going to the website. So yeah, help a guy out, right? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the Hughes Kettner Coreblade plugin from Nembrini Audio. So as I put on my headphones here, you're gonna see the Nembrini Audio Coreblade plugin up inside of Logic Pro here. And when you open it up for the first time, this is exactly what it's going to open up to. So we're all familiar with that Hughes Kettner logo, right? When we look at the Coreblade amp, this is a 4-channel amp, and you've got a clean, drive, Ultra 1, and Ultra 2. When you first open up this plugin though, it's gonna default to Ultra 1, and it's just its default tone. It's got delay and reverb on, and let's take a listen. So it's thick. Obviously, that's a very thick sounding high gain amp that we're working with at the moment. It's very thick. I think it would sound great in a mix as it is. But let's go ahead and go through the plugin real quick before we demo some more tones here, because I have created 3 different presets that I'm gonna show you all. So when we're on the amp section here, you'll notice that we have access to all 4 of the different channels available to us immediately right here on the amp itself, just by switching the knob over here, but also down here across the bottom. That's something very nice about the Nembrini plugins, is everything that you need to adjust quickly is all along the bottom, making it easy to adjust everything on the fly no matter which page you are on inside of the plugin. And so if I click between like drive, clean, Ultra 1 and Ultra 2, you'll notice across the bottom there all the settings are changing because it's changing presets based on that exact channel. And so we go back to Ultra 1 here, and I want to click over to the preamp pedal section. This preamp pedal section is pretty unique because you can actually swap where things are at in it. And I don't know of very many, if any, other plugins that you're able to do that in the preamp pedal section of the plugin. So for instance, we have the doubler before the tube screamer, and let's say I wanted the doubler last in the chain. I can just drag and drop it last in the chain. Now we've got the doubler last in the signal chain. And people might want to do this because you might want to control which effect is affecting each pedal along the signal chain. And if that's you, then that's something that's going to stand out for you in this plugin. And again, I don't know of a whole lot of other plugins that allow you to do that. And speaking of the doubler is pretty cool. If you have headphones on right now, you're going to notice the difference immediately. So let's go ahead and turn off the doubler. And then turn on the doubler. So the point of a doubler, at least for me, I don't record it into my final mix. You know, that's not going to come out on the album. It's not going to come out on the polished like music piece that's going to go onto streaming platforms. What I do love a doubler for is for just jamming by myself. It's really nice to not have to double track a guitar just to hear how it might sound double tracked with drums and everything. So turning on that doubler pedal is really clutch because you can just turn that on, don't have to go through the trouble of double tracking the guitar that you're thinking of, and you can just jam, be creative, and write. Now let's go ahead and turn on this noise gate real quick as well, because I heard some noise there in the background, but. Okay, so we have the doubler, we have the tube screamer. This is a traditional tube screamer style pedal by the looks of it. So if we turn that on, this is the tone before it. So you can hear immediately tightens up that tone. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the reverb and delay just while I'm talking here because I hear those trails. And then you do also have a filter which can give you like a really saw style tone to it, which is pretty cool. So if we turn on that filter and crank up the tight knob, and then we can bring up the harsh to kind of tame some of that. So the filter's a really cool pedal. We'll get more into that in our clean-ish tones later. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and check out the cab section. So in the cab section here, we do have it just on the Hughes Kettner cab itself, but if we scroll through, we do have a Hughes Kettner 2x12 with vintage 30s in it. Then we have a Hughes Kettner with greenbacks, it looks like. And then a Hughes Kettner with Rock Driver 60s. I've never played through those speakers before. And then we've got some other like generic speakers that you would usually find inside of a plugin here, but you can still control everything by changing the different mics out, and you can change the placement of the mics. So it's a very convenient IR/cab section here. And you can just turn it all off if you want to use your own impulse responses too. You don't have to use their impulse responses if you don't want to. If we go over to the effects section here, we do have a studio compressor and a pretty awesome EQ section, because as I'm going to show you in one of the presets that I made, this works like you would use like Pro Q4, Pro Q3, things like that for, or any graphical EQ where you can really dip out some frequencies, notch them out or notch them up if you want to. So again, really, really convenient to have these features built in. That means less CPU power having to be used by other plugins adding to your guitar signal chain. And it means you can also jam through that live with these on without adding that additional latency. So again, convenient. It's these little creature comforts that we like to have inside of our guitar amp sim plugins. So let's go ahead and close this one out, and let's go ahead and jump into a clean preset I made because I want to show you something clean. So in this clean preset, this is what we're working with here. I'm going to go over to the neck pickup. So we've got a sparkling clean going on here, right? I do have some stuff going on here. I have that filter pedal on, and that's why I told you I wanted you to pay attention to the filter pedal. I thought it was just for use for like a high gain tone or a saw style tone, but it actually sounds really cool for a clean tone. And using it brightens up the neck pickup on my guitar a little bit, because you know neck pickups inherently have a lot more low end and bass to them because of their placement under the strings. But adding this filter pedal in gives you that feel and glassiness of your neck pickup, but it also brings back some of that brightness without having to do anything like adding a tube screamer or an EQ before the preamp or anything like that. On the amp section itself, we are on the clean channel, obviously. We have the mod effects on, and then we do have the delay and reverb on. And I just thought it sounded cool like that. In the cabinet section, we're working with two SM57s, which I normally wouldn't do for a clean tone. So I thought that that was a really cool little add there, that the SM57s, the way that they're placed and panned and everything just sounds really good for a clean tone to me. Then in the EQ section, we do have a decent amount going on. We have high and low pass filters going on, and we have a high shelf at like 6K, I think I put it at, right about 6K. Yeah, and then we've got another bump over at 25K, not a very big bump, but enough. And then we've got another similar sized bump over at 1500. And I tend to do that on my distorted tones as well. In fact, I probably copied that over from my distorted tone because it just sounded good. And that does tend to happen because, you know, you're using the same cabinet across the board there. So if you don't change the mic placement or anything like that, you can probably use your same EQ curve for a clean tone unless you're going for a very specific sound. But I'm definitely enjoying this clean tone a lot. It's clean-ish is what I named it. And it's because I like a little bit of grit and dirt to my clean tone. All right, so enough of the clean tones, right? Let's go ahead and go into a heavy rhythm tone. So on the heavy rhythm tone, we have, of course, turned on the tube screamer. We have the noise gate cranked up on here, filter pedals off. Over on the pedal section, we have some very generic settings. We're on the Ultra 1 channel, which I will go back and show you the drive channel because it's a very unique sounding crunch and it's very cool. But we don't have a whole ton going on down here. It's very basic settings. So presence is cranked a little bit. Resonance is farther up than I usually use it because, you know, this isn't a 5150 style amp. At least to my knowledge, it's not based on one. Treble's a little bit above halfway. Mids are a little bit above mids. Actually, the mids are cranked. And then bass is very cranked. Gain is down at like 1.7. cabinet section, we're using that same Hughes Kettner cab, the Coreblade cab. We're using a condenser 414 and then a dynamic 57 off axis. And no effects on there except for some EQ, and this is how that sounds. That was on the neck pickup, y'all, my bad. So you can hear that's a very unique flavor of gain structure and gain character. I don't know what they did in this amp. I know Hughes and Kettner's been around for a really long time. They obviously know what they're doing with amps. I would love to play through the real version of this amp. I'm digging immensely how that gains like crunchiness and chewiness. It's not like a super abrasive, like edgy gent kind of amp. I mean, I'm sure it can be pushed to that level, but the way it is, it's thick. It's reminding me almost of like a Mesa dual rec kind of sound to it, but in a totally different way. So with all that being said, let's take a listen to a lead tone. Now for this lead tone, I've kept everything relatively the same as that rhythm patch that you heard me with. The mics are the same, the EQ is the same, the amp is set up the same, but we have our delay and reverb that we will turn on. So if we turn on the delay and reverb, the pedal section is still the same as well, noise gate, tube screamer, everything is on. But this is what the delay and reverb sound like in the context of like the distorted tone. So it's got a really cool type of trail and everything to it. It's not too bass heavy or too shrill or anything like that as far as the repeats go on the delay or the trail of the reverb. And that's nice because the only feedback that I would have for this plug is it would be nice to be able to adjust the tonal characteristics of the reverb and the delay, which obviously we can do but just by adjusting the EQ of the overall amp sim to begin with. But this is what we're working with here. Dude, this does pinch harmonics like you wouldn't believe. The type of gain and gain structure of this amp just really lends itself to some nasty pinch harmonic. All right, so that was the bridge pickup, a little bit of a lead tone. You all know I'm not a great lead player, but I am putting in the work, okay? And here's the neck pickup. Oh, damn. If you're not wearing headphones, then that's probably a good thing that time. That was very shrill, but that sounded sick. That sounds so good. I don't know. There's just something about pinch harmonics, and I don't know, who was your first like band or artist that you learned pinch harmonics from? For me, it was Zakk Wylde and then Killswitch Engage. Those were the two artists and bands that just got me so addicted to pinch harmonics. And I know everybody's got the first that they learned it from. For me, it was good old Zakk Wylde, and I know that he was the first for many, but who was your first? So sorry about the side tangent here. Just can't help myself with some pinch harmonics there. All right, so now that we've got the cleans, high gain rhythm tone, and a high gain lead tone, let's go ahead and try out the different channels on here. So we've heard the clean, we've heard the Ultra 1. Those have been the two channels that we've been using. Now let's take a listen to the drive channel. So listen when I'm playing these chords real quick. It's a very gritty, very grainy sounding drive channel. And I've got high output humbuckers in this guitar, so that's also adding to that. But it's a very different sounding gain structure. Again, this would sound really, really sick in a mix. I'm going to have to use that in a mix very soon. And now listen to the palm mutes. So let's turn on its boost from the amp itself. So it's somehow keeping a lot of clarity even with a ton of bass. The bass is up at 8.8 on that preset. Let's go ahead and bring it down and see what we've got. Yeah, it's got a ton, it's got bass for days. Let's turn off that boost and let's go ahead and go to the Ultra 2 channel. So this is its highest level of gain, and it turns on the boost automatically for that one. So let's see how that sounds. All right, so Ultra 2, not my favorite. It kind of gets lost in the sauce there. The note clarity tends to go away. Let's turn off the boost and see how that sounds. Yeah, it's still kind of lost there. Let's go ahead and look at the pedal section, what they've got going on. So it left the pedal alone. Let's crank the tone and level and bring the drive off. Yeah, so I don't know, the Ultra 2 is not my favorite. I know that there's a use case for that though. Again, giving that dual and triple rec sound. And so in a mix, I think if you were like quad tracking and you wanted to layer some guitars, that would make a wall of sound for damn sure. Like that would fill out the mix very, very well. Let's go ahead and go back to Ultra 1, which tends to be my favorite on this app. And how do I have the pedal? Okay, honestly, let's leave the tube screamer like that. It sounds good. All right, so what do I think? I think that the Hughes Kettner Coreblade from Nembrini Audio is a definite unique new entrant to the amp sim world. Everybody loves to say that we're oversaturated in the amp sim world, but I don't think we are. When we get new unique sounding plugins like this that are giving us a new unique flavor on an amp brand that we know and love already. So I think that with a plugin like this available, this is just yet another tool in your arsenal of getting that more unique tone, and you do have some different impulse responses in here as well. And as everybody loves to say, the impulse response is what's going to change things the most, and I would agree this impulse response sounds pretty damn killer inside of here, but I can't wait to try this with some of my own impulse responses as well, just to see what kind of sounds I can coax out of this. So it's nice to have some, different speakers to jam through. So it's something that you could throw some V30s in front of all of this and just play through the same thing, but it's nice to have something a little bit different. And it's really nice having all the creature comforts inside of this plugin to be able to use it and only use it. Having the doubler pedal is also super, super convenient, and it's fun to jam through. If you guys try this plugin out, try it with a doubler on. It's really, really fun to jam through, whether you're on headphones or listening through some stereo speakers, because it makes you feel like you double tracked the guitars, even though you didn't. And so it gives you that feeling of having them, so you can really test the riff before you commit to it and have to actually double track everything. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the plugin. I'm loving it. You're gonna see more of this one from me. What do you guys think though? Is this one gonna do the trick for you? How would you use this, whether in a mix or maybe you're just jamming? What are some things that you might have seen that I messed up along the way when dialing this in for y'all today? Because I'll try this out and make some different videos with it as well. So please look out for that. And if you all liked this video, please hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. It helps me a lot. And if you do decide to pick up the Hughes Kettner Coreblade from Nembrini Audio, please go ahead and use the link down in my description below because it helps me out a ton. And until next time, peace and love, and I'll talk to you in the next one.